We face adversity all the time, and I really think it's a great thing for you, but can it be too much?
If you run from it, you're never moving forward. You're never growing.
Whenever you have these hard struggles and growth periods, you just learn to stand up for yourself and say, no, I actually do know what I'm doing.
You become the person that you think other people think you are.
Exactly.
Instead of who you really are. If you can be convinced that what other people say about you is who you really are, you will just become that person and behave that way.
Some of the things that I deal with now is anger issues, impulse type things. One of the worst parts of it is I always want to punch something first.
The Den, powered by the Lyons Group, a show that explores trending topics in real estate, entrepreneurship, and personal growth. We're a small team of professionals with over $400 million in sales and nearly 2,000 successful transactions. You're listening to time-tested experts and industry leaders. Here's a refreshing look at real estate happenings and more. Welcome to The Den.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of The Den. And today we're going to be talking about adversity. As entrepreneurs, we face adversity all the time. And I really think it's a great thing for you, but can it be too much? So we're going to discuss that and more in today's episode. But before I get to that, let me introduce my friends, my partners, my co-hosts, the fellow members of the Lyons Group. To my right, Paul, Hammy the Rockberry, Aspen, the Ninja Gruen, and the boss, Shannon Martinez. My name is Ben. Many struggles, Lyons.
Struggle bus.
The struggle bus.
Struggle bus Lyons. That's
Struggle bus Lyons.
That's one that's going to stick.
That's one.
Oh, it's a story of my life. But I thought today we would talk about adversity because I've noticed some people just shy away from hard things. And I have a tendency to go all in on hard things and sometimes to a fault. And so my wife reminded me of that. She's like, not everything has to be difficult. Not everything, has to be a struggle or has to be a challenge. And I'm like, that's a good point. Then I get a little bit of relief. Like, you know what? She's right. I don't need to make everything so difficult sometimes or take on the world. But it is an important thing for your growth as a person, as an entrepreneur, as someone in living life in general. You need to grow, and adversity is part of that. So we wanted to have an episode on adversity itself. And to kick us off, Shannon, I'm coming to you.
All right.
Should you rob yourself of the opportunity to grow through adversity, or should you face it with a smile? What's your thoughts?
Well, I think you should face it. I'm not sure with a smile. Usually it's crying and screaming the whole way, but you should definitely face it. If you run from it, you're never moving forward. You're never growing.
Yeah. It is just part of life, isn't it?
It is.
So do you have any examples in your life where you had to face adversity and share with us some, peel back some layers?
All right, so I'll tell you my sad story.
Yeah.
No, it's not a sad story, but I'll tell you probably about the one incident that profoundly, I think, changed me. And it's probably not even that big of an incident, but it really changed me. I think for everybody, rejection is hard. Nobody likes rejection. And I think I've always been, not that I'm delightful, but I've typically been a person that wherever I work, I get along with my coworkers, I make friends with them. We have personal relationships. I definitely enjoy people and being around people. And, you every now and again, you'll have that customer that you didn't resonate with or whatever. And that's okay. For the most part, I get along with people. I had an incident at a workplace where I found that it was very toxic. And I realized that, when I left the room, I could hear them, women are ugly. I mean, let's just be honest. Women can be very mean at times, which is not.
Off the hook,
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Women are
my
can be
only
very
thing
mean.
has been with men being like that. I think anyone can.
Yeah.
People can just be mean sometimes.
But I'm off the hook on this episode, this part, right?
Ben and Paul just looking up at the ceiling.
We're good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm totally not talking about you this time.
I was holding my breath there for a minute.
No, I would never talk about anybody negatively in this room, obviously. But you could hear, mocking you when you walk out of the room, things like that, and that really works on a person. I think that works on not just your mind, but your soul. I think it really starts breaking you down when you realize I'm just not good enough. It's hard sometimes to step back and be logical and to say, it's not me. People that behave that way, it's within them. And it truly is. But when people are I think, challenging the very person that you are, your personality, the way you look, the way you talk, the way you work, everything about you is wrong. You kind of start shrinking. You kind of start becoming smaller and you kind of start feeling bad about yourself. And that was a real breaking point for me of just feeling overwhelmed with, I'm not good enough and starting to feel broken. Like I'm not doing a good job. Maybe I am stupid. Maybe I am ugly. Maybe I am, and I got to the point, and I know that I had spoken to you gentlemen about it with, I think I'm just not meant here. And I think I need to leave. I need to do something else. That was really a breaking point for me, feeling like maybe I'm not good at what I do in real estate. Maybe people isn't my thing. Maybe, just really very doubtful. And that was something that really piled on me very heavily. And I think that once I made the decision that, I'm not going to be treated like this anymore, that I really don't deserve this, and that this is not about me, and I moved on from that, it was amazing how doors opened up to people who saw the value in me like they always had in the past, and reminded me that I'm not the person that just these individuals said. I think that sometimes that adversity, when you do it, it could make you run into a hole, and really they could win. They could win, and they could make you leave a job that you love, or doubt who you are as a person. Or if you can stand up for yourself, if you can find the way to stand up for yourself, I think that once you move on and you realize that this toxic element is removed and the rest of the world does not see me this way, the rest of the world does not have these problems with me. I think that sometimes, I've become a better person on the other side of it, because now I can look back and I can say, how sad for them, how sad for women who could not stand up for another girl who was broken and feeling really bad about herself. And how, I don't want to be that woman. I don't want to be the woman that in the workplace mocks other women. I want to be one that, we may not get along, and I may not say anything at all to you, but I will never be ugly and vicious. I think I've become a better person on the other side of it, in standing up for myself, in standing up for others, in even just knowing where my value is, even just knowing what I'm willing to put up with.
Wow.
I will never in my life allow myself to be run into the ground by somebody else.
What an incredible testimony. I mean, because it's so easy to get in your head, especially when the stuff's going on behind the scenes. You're hearing it, and you're knowing that it's happening, and then you start getting in your own head and you're like, man, maybe I'm not worthy. Maybe I do have these issues. Maybe it's all me. Maybe it's, and I can see how people they continue to go down that path, and then it breaks them. Right. You lose confidence. You don't you don't evolve as a person, but you chose that's not the path. That's not the route that I want to go.
No, sometimes you just have to put yourself around better people. You just have to surround yourself around people who don't behave that way, or that understand the value in you, because all of us can become really broken down really quickly. But sometimes you need that to say, screw you. I am way better than this. In fact, I'm better than you. I am a better person. And sometimes you need that to either break, and you do find that is your true self, or to just become better and say, you know what, I'm going out in the world and I'm never going to be that woman. I will never be that woman to another woman.
I've always found too, if you are constantly being talked down to, picked on, you do start kind of, and you're in your own head about it. You almost emulate what they're saying.
Well,
because you're overthinking it.
Yeah, because I heard something a while back that said you become the person that you think other people think you are.
Exactly.
Instead of who you really are. And it's true. If you can be convinced that what other people say about you is who you really are, you will just become that person and behave that way.
Yeah.
And
that's pretty profound.
You don't ever want to be who somebody else decides you are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's part of the process, right? You have to, I think, as adults, as people living life in general, we all face this component that you just described at one level or another. And it's up to you to make that decision. You're at a crossroads in your life. Do I become what everyone thinks I am, or do I become who I believe I am? And who I believe I am is the most important thing. But people get lost in that, and they don't realize that their self-belief drives everything. And if you allow someone else to steer that boat for you, then that's a very dangerous position to be in. And
no, it's embarrassing. It's actually embarrassing to think that, that you've been picked on, or that, you're not good enough for some people. And, I guess everybody faces it at some point or another. But
I don't think it's embarrassing. I think it's embarrassing for the people that are saying those things. I don't think it's embarrassing for the person who's being, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
You feel like, how did I let this happen?
Yeah.
Almost?
How did I become that girl? How did I become that person?
But it's not on the person who's being spoken about.
Well, that was very vulnerable, Shannon. Thank you for sharing that. Great information. And thank you for opening up. I mean, that's not easy to do, but I'm glad you went through it because adversity helps shape who you are. And you
a lot tougher.
You are a lot tougher over that. So incredible. Thank you.
Hi, this is Aspen Gruen. I'm a partner at the Lyons Group. We're dedicated to making your real estate experience the best it can be. If you're looking to buy or sell, go to sjcbroker.com and watch our informational video series. These videos break down the process and shed some light on buying or selling. While you're there, schedule a private consultation with one of our partners. We'd love to sit down, talk strategy, and give you a real advantage in today's market. You deserve the best, so take those steps, and we'll see you soon. Now back to the show.
Aspen, share some thoughts on adversity in your life. Maybe share a story. I think we'd all love to hear.
I think one of the biggest takeaways or life lessons I had is like kind of learning to trust your gut and stand up for yourself. I had my daughter extremely young, and I mean, even to this day, I have people say, "Oh, well, you're young. It's fine. You'll learn one day." I hear that pretty often. I think one thing that I've taken is kind of learning to stand up for yourself, and also and as I've gotten older, it's when to not say anything too, and when to just let it go. But whenever you're a teenager and you're trying to parent and you're trying to figure it, I mean, you're growing up yourself still, and people are telling you all the different ways to do things. I think just eventually trusting your gut and saying, no, I think this is the right way, and this is what I'm going to do. I was in a relationship that was horrible relationship. And it was, well, but you have a kid together, so you need to get married. I'm like, I am 16 years old. So I stuck to my guns, and everyone in my family was telling me to get married. I didn't. And it was the best decision I've ever made in my entire life, was not doing that. And I think whenever you have these hard struggles and growth periods, you just learn to stand up for yourself and say, no, I actually do know what I'm doing. Now Logan's in high school. She's older than I was when I had her, which is crazy to think about.
Surreal.
Milestones right there.
Yeah. It's crazy. Feels very weird, but it is being like, okay, she actually turned out good. Because you never know. You never know until you get a little bit further. But yeah. Especially when they're so little, she's so good. A great kid. But it just kind of is like the reassurance of, no, that was the right decision. I'm glad that I stuck to it. And I used to be very, as a kid, I was always very, very outspoken. And then whenever I was in this relationship, I was not. I was very quiet and meek, and I let him make all the decisions. And it's probably hard to even picture that now, because if someone even looks at me sideways now, I'm like, but I do think it's like, just, you have to have people almost treat you one way to know, I will never put up with that again. And that's one thing Bryson says, my husband, he always is saying, well, you would never let me talk to you that way. Whenever I talk about other people, sometimes I'm like, yeah, but sometimes it's not worth the argument. And especially in this job, it's been, and how you said the women are always, mine has been men almost exclusively. There's been a few things, but especially I think because I'm doing commercials and investments, and they are always just, it's almost like I feel like I'm being tested with my knowledge, and raise their voice at me or try and kind of, and I found if I just say, hey, I'm listening to you, but I'm going to stop you right there. And you can't talk to me that way. They almost always stop. I think people go, oh, okay, I just need to breathe for a second. But sometimes it's not worth the conversation too. Right. Like if someone calls me sweetie, honey, young thing, I kind of just ignore it because I don't feel like it's worth the argument. But if someone is being disrespectful and raising their voice, that's when I found I put up with it at one point, and I will never put up with that again. And I also don't talk to people that way. So I kind of expect the same that I give.
Well, and you said something that was pretty interesting. You don't know what you really want until you've experienced what you don't want. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't realize that. So sometimes you just have to taste, like, I never want that experience again. Like that first relationship that you were saying. I mean, you look at you now, and it's almost quite the opposite with you and Bryson.
Completely opposite.
Yeah. I mean, so you have to experience in some degree what you don't want before you really understand, and it's very clear on what you do want. But adversity, well, like you faced, and now you see your daughter who's growing up, she's going to see a whole nother set of challenges. She's going to face another set of adversity that you're not going to face. And you can't try to take that away from her too. I mean, these are things that we have to go through. I heard a teacher say, which is pretty fascinating. She goes, we used to have the helicopter parents that were like always hovering and wanting to help or wanting to do stuff. And she goes, I would take a helicopter parent any day because now we have the lawnmower parent. And I was like, lawnmower parent, what's that? And she's like, those are the parents that come before the kids and pave away all of the adversity, all of the obstacles. They get rid of every obstacle that kid is going to face. And what does it do? It sets them up for not being successful because they don't know how to face a challenge and go over it.
Or even how to communicate whenever someone's being rude. They just kind of shut down, and you have to learn how to have uncomfortable conversations. You have to learn to advocate for yourself. You have to learn how to get through things because it happens almost every day. You have to figure something out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially at your age when you were being told, you got to get married, you got to do these things. And your gut was like, no. And for you to stick to that, I mean, that was a lot of adversity. People, who are older than you telling you that this is the correct path over here. You've decided that you wanted to go this other path. And like you said, only you can say this is that was the right path. That was the right thing for me. So thank you for sharing that, Aspen. Paul, I'm jumping to you. Adversity in your life, how has it helped you?
I'm good.
Everything just goes your way.
I'm fine. I don't know.
Paul's just a politician.
Yeah, I don't need to do this one.
I love the what's that cartoon where the guy's like, just bleeding and limping along. He's like, I'm fine.
Yeah, just a flesh wound.
I was about to say that.
Yeah.
Well, I would say obviously I was in the military. I think the biggest adversity I had was coming back after being overseas and fighting in Iraq. Was just every interaction with people I would see in a different lens. And that was 22 years ago, and it still affects every interaction I have today. So it was hard at the beginning, and it still affects relationships, friendships, customers. It's like that friend that's always with you, the imaginary friend that's always with you.
Good or bad?
Good or bad, yeah. So I think it's definitely shaped who I am, good or bad. I think, some of the things that I deal with now is anger issues, impulse type things. One of the worst parts of it is I always want to punch something first. So I have to stop myself from doing that. But one of the things that is tough is like people should already understand what I'm saying. You know what I mean? I used to be so in the military. You're just you say it one time, you say it one way, and people are supposed to jump. Or when you're fighting, there's finality in your actions. So coming back from that and being in the world where you have to
say things two or three times,
to me, or say things a certain way, or not try to offend somebody, or you sound overly aggressive when you're not. And those are things that I've had to definitely slow down as I've gotten older, especially slow down and think about things before I say them, before I do them. And I'm not perfect by any means, but I think that's one of the constant struggles. And the words that we use on that is, of course, PTSD, but it's harder than that. It's not a decision. It's just something that it's kind of like a handicap. I think I was told it was an injury that you're working against always.
But do you feel like, because some injuries, like some people are born without an arm and they learn how to drive with one arm. Or I was just talking to someone the other day, actually, who her brother had no arms and drove with just his feet. And he would actually, when he was upset somebody and he's driving fast and the sister's like in the side, like, slow down. You're just
how do you flip somebody off with no arms?
And so she was saying that he would do stuff like that. And we had a good laugh, but I was thinking to myself, he really compensated when you say you have an injury, you compensate in other ways. And that helps develop more strength in other areas. Do you feel like that's the case for you? Have you been able to use the adversity that you faced from the military service, from the war, into helping you deal with people that may be more difficult, or maybe making you more self-aware with how you communicate?
Maybe self-awareness.
Uh-huh.
Maybe I know that my first instinct is aggression. So if it slows me down, it makes me stop. I don't put myself in certain situations, or try not to anyway. But I think the one benefit that it gives you is self-awareness. I think one of the things that people have or don't have nowadays is self-awareness. They don't know when they're acting like a jerk. They don't know when they're, doing things they shouldn't be doing. But that self-awareness, or, knowing that you've done something and then being able to go back and fix it later is another one.
So I just look at the progression of you as an individual. I mean, 22 years ago, you wouldn't be able to do the career you have now. No. You don't have you'd have the discipline, but the self-awareness, the ability to communicate and deal with people, the ability to do these things has evolved because of the pressure and the stuff that you went through to a large degree back in the early 2000s. Is that fair to say?
Sure.
When you see people that have never gotten out of it, like we can all probably think of a few people that we work with, not in this office, just in the general real estate landscape, that have never gotten over that anger. And they try and strong arm every deal they have. They try and strong arm every inspector, buyer, seller, you. And it really creates a lot of tension, anger, and frustration, and sometimes fear whenever you're on the other side, versus you get more bees with honey, Yeah. So I think that working through that probably has gotten you more business. You're able to do the state stuff that you're doing. I don't think you'd be able to do that if you were constantly, hounding someone or down someone's throat. So I think it has, the fact that you've acknowledged it and worked towards it has probably made a really big impact on your life and your family's life.
Yeah, because I think that, we have to admit that adversity changes us. It's going to change you. A hardship is going to change you. And you can decide, though, is it going to change you for the good or for the bad?
Exactly.
Are you going to be the kid that grows up and says, well, I come from a long line of alcoholics, and so, I'm a drunk, and that's what we do, or are you going to be the one that stands up and says, I will never live like that?
Yep.
Are you going to be the one that says, yeah, I was, whatever, I had something happen in my household years ago, so I'm just going to sit in fear all the time? Or are you going to say, no, I take control of that, and that won't happen to me again? We do get to be the author of that. Now, it's not always easy to overcome that in your head, but we do get to decide ultimately in the end how you let it affect you. Yeah. Is it going to break you and make you into exactly whatever was trying to make you into, or is it going to make you rise up and be better?
Exactly.
And be different?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I would wholly agree with that.
We can decide that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think in your instance, Paul, it's made you a better person. And I know you feel like you still, struggle with it. And I have no doubt that you do to a large degree. But from an outsider's perspective, looking in, I feel like you have been able to elevate above that and take a path where you're aware and using it in a way that is productive and using it in a way that is helping you become a better person. And we all on the journey of becoming a better person. That should be our goal in life. But what you had gone through in the early 2000s has helped shape who you have become today to a large degree. And I would argue to the positive. And I think, if you really look at it from that perspective, I know you're the hardest person on yourself. We all are, right? We're pretty hard on ourselves. Wouldn't you agree? Wouldn't you think that that's what you've gone through has made you a better person, even though it's been painful and difficult?
Yeah, I'm a different person than I was 22 years ago, for sure.
So our camera just shut off. We're having a little bit of technical difficulty. I should have charged it more. That was my fault. But I do want to say, What's that?
It's the struggle bus.
The struggle bus.
Right.
That's exactly.
Been the
It's perfect.
struggle bus.
Would we expect anything different?
Would we expect anything? Exactly. The struggle bus Lyons. But at least they can hear the audio of this and they can still see your two pretty faces, ladies. But I do want to say, because part of why we came up with this topic, or why this topic came to mind, was I was reading through some quotes, and one was from Marcus Aurelius, who was an emperor he was a Roman emperor almost 2,000 years ago. And he wrote a lot of sayings, and someone compiled that into a book called Meditations. And it really is profound things that he said 2,000 years ago that still affect us today. And one of the things he said is, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, when you're facing an obstacle, you're facing a problem in your life, there are people that run around that try to escape that. And there are other people that see that obstacle now becomes the way. You have to conquer that obstacle or whatever is in the way to become the next version of you. And I think adversity for us as entrepreneurs, as business people, as just honest, good-working people that want to become better, adversity is a very critical part, and we shouldn't shy away from that. Now, do we have to make things more difficult? No. But and do we have to smile through it all, Shannon? No.
We certainly don't.
It's also, no decision is still a decision. Just because you're running around the problem, that even if the problem eventually resolves itself, you've just made the decision.
Right.
You've accepted it.
Yeah, I've decided not to tackle this. That's a decision.
Exactly.
100% is a decision. Yep. So no decision, and inaction is actually an action. So, so very interesting conversation. Thank you for being vulnerable today. That was pretty incredible. And of course we had some technical difficulties, but at least you can still hear the episode, which is awesome. But thank you for listening to this episode of The Den. If you like our content, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to our Facebook page. Sign up for our newsletter. We have an incredible newsletter that Paul puts out every week. It's fantastic stats. Of course, you can go to sjcbroker.com and schedule a private consultation with any member of the Lyons Group. Whether you're looking to buy or sell residential or commercial, we can give you an advantage in today's market. So thank you again for listening to this episode of The Den. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Den, powered by the Lyons Group. Hit the subscribe button to keep informed, and check the show notes below for direct links to our buyer and seller video series. The Buyer and Seller video series can give you an inside track on taking the right steps in real estate. If you'd like to learn more about the Lyons Group or to schedule a consultation, go to sjcbroker.com. Complex markets require complex strategies. The Lyons Group can give you a true advantage in any market. Whether you're buying or selling, residential or commercial, contact us directly at sjcbroker.com. We're time-tested experts with a client-first approach, and we'll see you next time in The Den.